Good morning. What is going on, guys? We are Man Stuff Outdoors, and this is the Dead Silence Podcast. I'm Richard from Rippin' Lips TV. I make fishing videos and put them on the YouTubes. I've got with me Chris and Brett. You guys have seen them from my previous videos. We decided to start a weekly podcast about the outdoors, fishing, hunting, hiking, camping, pretty much anything that we're into that week. We might get off topic occasionally and go down some rabbit holes, but we're just going to have fun with it. And I'm going to kick it over to Chris and kind of let him introduce himself to you guys.
Well, good morning, guys. Like Richard said, my name's Chris. I've been in, I guess, a couple of Rippin' Lips TV videos. I've been, well, hopefully I've got something valuable to add to the conversation here. The focus is outdoor stuff, and I've done pretty much all of the outdoor stuff. So I grew up hunting, grew up fishing, rock climbing, backpacking, kayaking, you name it. I've been doing it since I was about 5. So, like I said, hopefully that experience is valuable, and I've got something to add. So,
Excellent. Brett?
Nice. What's up, guys? I'm Brett. Much like Chris, I've kind of just been an outdoorsman my whole life. I didn't grow up in a setting like they did, but I still got to play outside. I've essentially grown up camping and hiking. I've always been interested in these things, running around in the woods. Unlike them, I actually just started hunting a few years ago, and Richard had introduced me into this. And I think it's a pretty cool process, so I'm excited to talk about it today.
Sweet. So we'll jump right into it. And just a disclaimer, guys, we're not trying to give you professional hunting advice, professional fishing advice, or professional any advice. We're just a bunch of guys that like to hang out outdoors and do cool stuff. So I thought that we would have the first podcast based around this year's current hunting season. We haven't really, from what I can understand, we haven't really been able to spend a ton of time in the woods. Chris has been hunting once or twice so far. Brett's been hunting a couple times, one weekend. But we've had a pretty good season, a productive season. For the most part, Chris has killed a buck, Brett's killed a doe, and I killed a bear, and I also choked on a big buck. So we'll get to that eventually.
I was hoping you were going to add that in the intro, and that way they knew about it.
Well, we'll get to that later. It was it's a sad story. But I want to start out. The first week of hunting season was actually probably one of the most amazing starts to hunting season that I've had in a long time. There was one year in high school that I killed an 8-pointer and a 9-pointer on back-to-back days, and that was something special. But the opening day of bow season this year was something else. I've actually just getting a video ready to roll, and about the day before, so that should be out by the time this podcast is out, and then the actual hunt should be out probably either shortly after this podcast or before the podcast. But essentially, I hunt in southwestern Virginia, East Tennessee area. This is our area of the country that we hunt and fish in. East Tennessee has got probably some of the best fishing on the East Coast. Maybe Florida, the Florida area, the Alabama area, and then you think East Tennessee. Like, it doesn't get much better. And then as far as hunting goes, for whitetail deer, we're proud of our whitetail deer hunting. We hunt just as hard as those guys out west. And, you know, in recent years, our quality is getting up there comparing with those guys. But just a background on what area of the country we're hunting and kind of what we're into. But so opening day of bow season, I'm in the stand all morning. See a couple deer here and there, and didn't really had a couple little bucks and does get into shooting range, but I was after something really special on that opening day and opening weekend, and I hunted hard I went in, got off work on Friday and headed up the road to the parents' house and got up there and went and fixed my stands and have you got, Chris, how do you keep the briars from getting into your stand? Let me ask you that real quick.
The short version is you show up the first day of bow season with a set of those shrub clippers.
Yeah.
And you go around the tree and you cut down as many as you can.
That would have probably been a good idea because
you don't sit with the briars. You have to cut them down, Richard. You don't want to sit in there and get poked all night or all day.
Yeah, I've been going. I've sat in 3 stands this year, and 2 of the 3 stands have been briar infested and in the jungle.
You got to spend some more time preseason, man.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Got to take more care. I was depending on Dad to do that, but I think he missed he was too busy golfing or whatever.
Yeah, he and Dad they're too busy golfing. They golf every week.
But anyways, so I'm whitetail hunting with a bow. I haven't killed a deer with a bow in a long time. I'm just starting to get back into spending some quality time hunting. This is the first year back. Last year I was kind of focused on fishing and kind of skipped out on hunt season for the most part. Went 1 or 2 weekends, but I haven't harvested a good buck or a good animal in a minute, in a couple years. But I see Chris brainstorming over there. But so the second day, essentially, I'll just jump right into it. A little background: I've never seen a bear while hunting. Hasn't happened. And so I'm sitting in the stand. It's getting pretty dark, or getting towards dark, and I look to my right and I see a figure emerging from the bushes. and this figure, and honest to God, I thought that it was a person to start with. I was like, who is walking up on me out here? And then I quickly realized that it was not a person, that it was a black figure, and it was a black bear. And it was the first one I'd ever seen while hunting, so I kind of had this moment of freak out where I really didn't know what to do or how to handle the situation. My first instinct, I'm not going to lie, is just yell, "Hey, bear!" And I wasn't.
That's a good plan.
It wasn't even in my, my hemisphere to shoot it. But I was like, no, I'm not going to yell at it. I'm in a tree stand. It doesn't know I'm here. So I'm not going to let it know that I'm here. And so I pulled the camera out of my bag. I got, I followed it going through the cut in front of me, and watched it go out of sight. But and then I texted my dad. I was like, "Gosh, I just saw a bear. It came right under my stand, 20 yards." And he's like, "Why didn't you shoot it?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "It's bear season." So I was like, "Dang!" So I got on my phone, looked up. I was opening the day of bear season right there. It wasn't even in my hemisphere because I'd never seen one. It wasn't even a possibility coming into this weekend. And there it was, opening day of bear season. I had a shooter bear in front of me in bow range and did not take advantage. So I was just sitting there the entire time just kicking myself like, that will probably never happen again. I've never seen a bear in while hunting, I'll probably never see one again. And I was kind of down about it. So, anyways, fast forward a couple hours. It's completely getting dark now, and I turned my GoPro on because I'm getting ready to leave for the evening. I'm gonna do like this little video where I'm getting out of the tree stand and climbing down. So I packed my stuff up, climbed down the tree, and as soon as I hit the ground, essentially, I turn around, and there's another black bear 30 yards from me, walking up the hill. And I knocked an arrow. It's walking away from me. It gets to about 50 yards. I can see maybe a foot, but I know that foot is its front shoulder. That I can see just a black spot, but I know that black spot is its front shoulder. And
well, that's important. You got to emphasize that part. Is you knew what you were shooting before you even drew your bow. You knew where the arrow was going to go. You got to emphasize that part.
That's a good point. We want to another reason we're doing this podcast is to kind of promote and educate people on hunting in general, and you know, we're trying to be good ambassadors to the sport here. We try to do things the right way. We mess up sometimes. That's hunting. We're not perfect, but we're going to try to be as perfect as possible because we're dealing with a life, and if we're out here playing God, we want to take that responsibility seriously. But anyways, so I knock an arrow, pull it back. I do my little grunt like, "Arr! Hey bear."
One more time. Do it
again.
Hey bear, stop. You know,
hey bear.
Just trying to get the bear to stop, and finally on the second grunt, it turns around, and it's hard to see from the GoPro footage, but you know, as soon as it stops, bless you, sir. Bless you, sir.
Allergies, boys. Allergies.
Allergies in November.
I like that Batman cup, by the way.
You like that? Check it out. This is...
Oh, snap.
Oh, snap.
But anyways, 50 yards, stops dead in its tracks. I release the arrow, and I hear a thud. I hear the bear roar. It jumps like 6 feet in a tree. And at this time...
I'm going to keep you honest here, Richard. You got to tell them the truth what you did. Because I was here when this happened.
You guys will be able to see from the video that after I shot that bear, I had a little panic attack moment, and I decided I was going to run back up into the tree. So I didn't really pay attention on where the bear went after I let that arrow go. I just knew that I hit it, and that it was going in a certain direction. And
it was roaring.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to come. I didn't want it to come to my direction. So.
Well, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you again, Richard, but that's another thing that you got to remember when you shoot a bear. 90% of the time, if you put a good hit on one, they'll do what's called a death roar. And when you hear that sound, one, you'll never forget that sound, and two, right. it typically means you've put a good shot on them. And they won't go far.
So I release it. I kind of run towards the tree stand. I'm getting back up, and you know, I call Dad, and I call Chris, and I say, I just shot a bear. And you know, they're kind of hesitant. I was thinking they were a little bit hesitant in the beginning.
We didn't believe you.
Yeah. So this has happened a couple times throughout my hunting career that I've done some things, and it's like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yeah, it happened. But anyways, we look around, and we didn't really find any good blood. I had a arrow shot.
Who found blood?
All right, Chris found the blood. He's a bloodhound, but he found.
I found blood before the dog found blood.
Yeah, he found my arrow and he found blood, but that was it. We found that one like little drop of blood, and it wasn't really red blood. It was kind of It was kind of that clear blood that is not a good sign. So I originally thought that I'd put a bad shot on it. And we looked around for a little bit, but it was really dark, and I think it might have been starting to rain or something.
Yeah.
So we decided to just call it a night and go back in the morning and look for daylight. And I tell you what, I didn't get a wink of sleep that night, or not really solid sleep. I spent the entire night thinking about that bear, just praying that I put a good shot on it, and that it was laying dead in the woods, and it didn't suffer, and that was what was important to me. So the next morning, Chris goes home. He doesn't stay and help me find it like a good friend would. But
I had to go to work, man.
So
I got to make a living.
Yeah, exactly. But so I wake up the next morning, and I'm out the door as soon as daylight hits, down there looking for it, me and Dad. And I'm walking all over this mountain, and Dad just takes the four-wheeler and gets on the road, and right down in the middle of the road, he calls me and says, "I found it." And literally on the middle of the road, going to the tree stand, it's just laying in the middle of the road. And it was probably no more than 50, 60 yards from the actual tree stand itself.
What's important, another thing to add to that, is where the creek was in relation to the bear.
Yeah, so the stand where I shot from is right beside a creek, and I shot up on a hill. And usually when you shoot an animal, it will not run uphill. If you get a good shot on an animal, that animal is not going to take the effort to go up that hill. It will usually go down the hill, and they go beside creeks, and they lay down and die.
They go towards water.
That's the typical pattern that we've observed, at least here in East Tennessee and southwestern Virginia. And I'm sure that pattern holds true across the country. But, I got to him. I got my hands on him. And he wasn't the biggest bear. We checked him in. He was 150 pounds. But, first black bear kill with a bow. I tell you, I couldn't be more happy and more proud.
When you told me that you shot a bear, I didn't know that I was going to believe you. When you texted us that afternoon and said, "I just shot a bear," I thought, nah, he's messing with us. This is something for a video.
Yeah.
But when we got down there,
that's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah.
What was your reaction, Brett, when I called you and told you? Because I have this thing where when something happens, I call everyone I know and tell them.
Yeah.
So what?
Dude, I was amazed. The whole story was pretty amazing. I mean, I thought when we first started telling the story, I thought you were going to tell me that you shot the first bear you saw, and then after you said you didn't shoot this bear, I was like, "There's no way he'll see another one." Because you like you said, you haven't even seen a bear.
Yeah, and you've spent time hunting out there. Have you seen one?
I've spent maybe 4 or 5 seasons out there, right? And I saw.
Chris
I was in the
spent
same
time out there. Have you seen anything, Chris? Have you ever seen a bear hunting?
Yeah, I have.
Well,
Yeah, not on that piece of property.
Yeah,
but I have seen bears.
That's what I mean, like in that area.
No, not on that piece of property.
Yeah, it was amazing to me. But go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, so I mean, it just I was in that same stand, after you did the bear, but so I didn't have any intuition about the stand beforehand. But now I understand your story even better because I sat in that stand. I was there.
Yeah, Brett can visualize this entire story because he spent probably 20 hours in that stand a couple weeks ago, which brings us around to the what was it, the opening day of muzzleloading season?
Opening day, yeah.
That was the next time that we hunted, and Brett brought home some meat. It was mission accomplished.
That's right.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Brett?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been hunting with Richard maybe, I don't know, how many seasons you think? 4?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
4 or 5. And the first season I was out there, I got a little doe, or what was it?
Small. It
small.
was actually, yeah, it was a small doe.
And
a good herd culling, good management doe is what we like to call them.
Yeah, that's true. So I get this little deer, and I saw the process for the first time, which is really interesting to me. And I think that's one thing I like about this whole process the most, is seeing the production from the beginning, for the whole process, from harvesting, skinning, butchering, packaging, everything from start to finish. Meat running around to on the table, it was pretty cool. So then I got hooked. I liked it. I went maybe 2 or 3 seasons where I didn't even see a thing.
He was coming, just to tell you guys, he was coming to hunt. He hunted probably 4 to 5 days in those seasons. Not a lot, but definitely enough to kill a deer. But he was just after that buck.
Yeah.
He just didn't have a buck walk by. And
I probably let 12 doe walk by. I mean,
I try to tell him, I was like, listen, we're out here to eat and to feed ourselves and our families. So this season, you need to sacrifice the horns for the back straps.
That's true.
We need to use that as a motto. Sacrifice the horns for the back straps. Actually, no, let's not do that.
I like it though. It's good.
Yeah, it's valuable. It is.
Yeah, and that's true. And I'm really happy I made the decision to do that, because at the end of the day, for me, the reason I go hunting, number one, I like sitting out there. I like the process. But in the end, for me, it's about the meat on the table. It's probably some of the most pure meat you can get. It's way better than what you get at McDonald's. It's not processed the way that meat is. Same as even if you go and get ground beef or whatever from the grocery store. This is a cleaner, more pure, grass-fed, free-range.
Exactly. As organic as it gets. It doesn't get any more organic.
That's right.
We know exactly what's going in the body of this deer. This deer has had the most amazing life up until the moment of death. We catch a lot of hate in the hunting community about, you're animal killers, from people that eat meat. And
that's an important distinction to make. People that eat meat.
It will drive you nuts. I'm not gonna lie. This is a ethical way to harvest food, and it arguably, in my opinion, and the opinion of many hunters, is the most ethical way to get your food, and the most way, and the way to respect the animal the most. These animals mean a great deal to us. We just want you guys to realize that they mean a great deal to us, because they provide for us and our families. Sorry about that, Brett. I went off on a little bit of a rant, but
that's good. There you go. These are necessary a little bit,
Kind of tell us the deets. So I'm sitting in the stand, and I see a couple deer. They come behind my stand, and they take off towards Brett. And I think I texted you, Brett, and said 2 does headed your way, son.
That's right. Yeah. So I started being more quiet than I was because I was eating crackers.
Oh, God, he's out there munching. Hey, real quick, have you guys seen the Facebook video of the dad that takes his daughter hunting, and he turns the camera over,
yes,
and she's munching on some barbecue chips? Like, she's got a big bag of barbecue chips or whatever, and she's just munching on them, and she's crinkling the bag, and she's being really quiet, except when she reaches in the bag and grabs chips.
It is pretty adorable.
It's so funny.
It is hilarious.
I don't think she realizes that the deer can hear that.
They can hear it really well.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I started preparing. I'm looking for these doe, and I was in the stand that Richard was in when he took this bear, but it was windy. And that creek's behind you, so it's hard to hear the deer coming up.
Yeah, you're hearing.
So you have to be very visual.
You're hearing squirrels jump around. Your head's got to be on a swivel. And it was wet, so when it's wet, usually if it's really dry, you can hear the leaves. Crunch. You can literally take a nap, and then the crunching will wake you up. But when it gets wet and that creek's running behind you, got to keep your head on a swivel.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm looking around. I'm looking around. I don't see anything, and maybe I don't know how long it was after uh, I see these two doe pop up, and they're down to my right and kind of down in the creek. And I see one, I see two, and so it's I'm up in this tree stand, and it's an awkward position I have to shoot out of. So I'm like half standing, half squatted down. But I put the crosshairs right on the second doe, right behind the shoulder, pulled the trigger, and kaboom! Instant kill right there.
Did
Attaboy.
How far did it run?
It ran it ran around right behind me and fell over.
So, Brett texted me and said, doe down, and I was like,
No,
yes, we got meat. This is, essentially, this is what we're after. We're after meat. At the end of the day, we like to kill mature bucks and mature animals, but at the end of the day, we're trying to feed ourselves. And so I told Brett to just keep hunting until we got finished with that morning. Was it in the morning when you shot that deer?
That was early morning.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was early morning. So I leave the stand and head over to Brett and get to him, and he's got that doe drugged down to the creek. Right, and it's on a sandbar.
That's fun.
Look, here's the thing. You say that deer don't run up the mountain, but this one kind of ran up a little bit because it was already in the water.
Yeah.
Basically, when I
Wait, did
when
you
I
shoot
shot
it? Did you shoot it while it was standing in the creek?
Basically,
That's cool.
That's kind of crazy. Like that,
Yeah.
I've never done that. Have you, Chris?
yeah.
No, I've never shot one while it was standing in water.
That's crazy.
I did.
That's
And so the only way it could go, it tried to run with the creek, but then it wanted to run away from the shot placement.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. So it ran sideways and up. So I don't know. It went up maybe, and it was pretty steep. That little hill back there. It was probably 30 feet up or something, 25.
Speaking of which, that little hill you're talking about, I was walking around through there the other day, and I saw a buck scrape.
Hey.
A big buck scrape. This scrape was like 3 foot long. Like usually, your scrapes are, a foot and a half, foot and a half. But this buck had scraped the entire tree.
Wait, are you talking about a scrape or a horned tree?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Horn tree.
Horn tree. Okay. Because a scrape is different.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
So I don't mean to be the corrector here. I just know that we're going to catch some flack on this.
oh yeah, we got to be correct, or we're going to catch massive amounts of of your dumb, but which I am for the majority of my day. But I roll up to Brett, and he put the absolute best shot possible right through both front shoulders. We gutted it up, skinned it up, and let it hang overnight, and then the next day we got to work on getting the meat off, and we ended up getting quite a bit of meat. I think we got I don't know, what do you think, Brett? 30 pounds?
That's about 30 pounds, I'm sure.
Yeah, it wasn't a big huge doe, but it was an adult doe, probably 3 years old, something like that. Yeah.
Were you able to use either of the shoulders, or did you hit her in the shoulder?
The shoulders were pretty much, they were pretty. What is that? That jelly stuff that kind of formed.
Bloodshot?
Yeah.
Yeah, bloodshot.
They were just really bloodshot.
Coagulant.
Yeah.
Coagulated blood? Yeah. That's tough to get. I don't know of a good way to get that out of them.
There's not a good way from what I found, but we tried to pick the meat off best we can. That was good, and we just put it in our burger pile.
Right.
That's another thing that I'm learning more and more is how to use the trim pile more effectively, and learn how to make, because that trim pile that you have is not the best tasting meat in the world. You're after the back straps. That's the back straps and the rump roast and stuff like that. But but yeah, we got some good meat off that deer, and Brett's gonna have some deer for this year, and he's all about it.
That's right. We made some jerky. We made some
Oh
burgers.
yeah, the jerky. That jerky
That
turned out
jerky is
great.
gone
I bet it
because
is.
my son ate it all.
So I met Brett with the jerky. He had to leave before it got finished, so I met him, and he had his son with him, and I said, we'll call his son B. I said, B, you want some of this jerky? And he was a little hesitant at first, and I gave him a piece, and he chomps into it. And then he didn't get 3 chews in, and he's already back in the bag trying to get the biggest piece in the bag. Like, he reached in the bag and got the biggest piece after that.
He loves deer meat.
So
That's good.
That was really good. That I thought that, he's eating deer meat. Me and Brett are essentially passing on that tradition to him, because he's going to get that taste, and he's going to be like, I want more of that. It's good. And so, hopefully here in the next year or two, we can get him up there and get him his first deer, and
That's right.
be a part of that experience, because
He's taking his hunter safety right now
yeah,
online.
we're going to get his hunter safety course, and we're going to get him there. But so we've described a fairly successful hunt this year. Brett got some meat. I got a bear, and Chris was in Michigan.
Yeah.
I think he was hiking or something.
Yeah, I was in Michigan the first weekend of muzzleloader season. I spent some time walking around. Excuse me. I spent some time walking around Lake Michigan. And if you've never been to the Great Lakes, it's kind of like, well, they call it the saltless coast. So if you ever decide to go to the beach and you don't want to deal with a bunch of a huge crowd or a bunch of touristy things, try the Great Lakes. I've spent some time on Lake Erie. I did some fishing on Lake Erie, and then I went to Lake Michigan this past couple weeks ago, and it's a really, really cool place. The only thing is, it's really flat. Really, really flat. You wouldn't think it would be, but there's a state park in just outside of what's the name of the town? Holland, Michigan. It's called Saugatuck, and it's got like 200-foot tall dunes in this place. So if you ever get a chance to go, you need to go and walk around the dunes. I enjoyed it because it was good. Obviously, this is, I guess, just pertinent for me, but it's really good tracking practice. I always call a sandbar or any kind of sandy area, it's a track trap. So when you get especially an area near water, you've got a lot of animals. Well, obviously they have to go to water, so you can really follow a set of tracks.
Now, the beaver trapping and like muskrat, is that where that is big, or?
It's big up there, but it's not necessarily on the Great Lakes. It's the tributaries and the creeks and things that come into the Great Lakes.
Gotcha.
That you mainly trap for beaver or muskrats or mink.
That would definitely be something I'd be interested in doing one day. Is going trapping.
It's
learning that skill, because I haven't done it a lot.
That's one of those things. I've done it. It's one of those things that you got to do for a season. You can't really do it for a day.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about trapping is you get to see a lot of different animals up close and kind of understand their mentalities. A coyote acts a lot different in a trap than a possum would. And it's interesting to see the difference. Speaking of possums, I caught one in a trap once, and the first time I saw it, I've seen possums close. I've seen them on the road dead. I've walked up close behind them, but when you get them in a trap and they get mad, they'll show their teeth. And a possum has more teeth in its mouth than I think any other animal in North America. Wow. I don't know if that's 100% fact, but they've got a whole lot of teeth. So they're a little bit weird when you get them cornered like that. You always think of a possum playing possum.
I've seen a possum trap before, actually.
Possums have 50 teeth. more than any other North American land mammal.
There you go.
And opposed
Very
to
nice.
clawless thumbs on their rear
Yep.
limbs. So
Yep.
possums are sweet.
I didn't know possums were going to be a part of this podcast, but hey.
I had a guy in West Virginia one time tell me that that a possum tastes like pork.
Really?
Yeah, said it's the closest.
I don't think I've ever eaten possum.
I haven't either, and I'm just going to take that out of the way.
Brett's like, I don't know about that.
I have reservations about things that eat trash, so.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But.
Well, I don't mean to change the subject, but while you guys were talking, I wrote down a couple of talking points, things that that I wanted to hit on before we got off of this. First of all, Richard, you brought up squirrels jumping, and I was curious to see if you two knew how a 3-pound animal can sound like a bulldozer in the woods.
I've been trying to figure that out for the last 20 years.
The funny thing about squirrels, bless you, Richard.
Bless you, brother.
Funny thing about squirrels is they make more noise than a 400-pound bear ever dared to.
Well, if you get a couple squirrels together, like if you get them in close proximity, it sounds a lot like a deer walking. So
it does.
Like I'll hear 2 squirrels, I'll hear them like knock, knock, knock,
rustling,
like rustling, and it's the heart rate spikes. I'm looking around like, oh God, where's it at? And it's like, that's squirrels, man.
I think I saw something on Facebook one time that said, if I had $1 for every time I thought this, and it showed a picture of a squirrel, was a deer, I'd never have to work again.
Well,
so, I mean...
Yeah, what's hilarious is that when you are squirrel hunting, it's like a lot of the time you don't see any squirrels, but then you go deer hunting and like you see 15 squirrels, and it's like, man, I should be out here trying to get squirrel gravy instead of deer hunting. But
yeah.
But
yeah.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
One of the other things, and I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but one of the other things that you brought up was the difference in what blood looks like based on where the shot was placed. Mm-hmm. And I thought this would be good for Brett. Typically, and this is just based on my experience, I don't have any science to back this up, mm-hmm. But typically based on where you shoot the deer, the blood looks different. Or, well, any animal. Yeah. If you lung shoot a deer, if you hit it high and lung shoot the deer, I'm going to use deer. There'll usually be bubbles in the blood directly underneath where you shoot the deer. There'll be bubbles in the blood.
I guess that's just from the air.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't have any science behind this.
Yeah.
But it'll be bright red blood, mm-hmm. really, really bright red, and it'll have bubbles in it.
Good sign.
Yep. The other thing is if you shoot one and you miss the lungs totally and you hit the heart or you hit another vital organ, most of the time it's really dark blood and it's constant. It looks almost concentrated.
That's what I saw. Yep.
Yep. That's typically indicative of a heart shot or a good shot. And usually if you see blood that is that has kind of like a clear liquid with it, or the viscosity is a little different,
gut shot.
It usually means you shot them a little too far back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, because if you're shooting a gut shot, right, you're not going to hit a main artery or something.
Right.
You're getting stomach bile. That's what you're getting.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that's which when I shot the bear, I didn't get the best shot on it. You guys can see from the video, but essentially the goal is for it to go, 50 yards and die, and that's what happened. So in that scenario, it worked out. I shot my bow every day leading up to that in preparation, and to try to be as responsible as I could. I felt like you got to put the time in to train and, at least give it your best effort. That's kind of the main thing that I'm going to try to express. Give it your best.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. Like, it's not easy to hunt. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, and physically it's difficult. The whole process can be physically tiring. Also, you have to practice. I mean, you got to put the time in, like you said.
And I learned that the hard way. We're not gonna get into to that this week. I think I'm gonna save that till next week, and maybe we'll open next week with with talking about you know, the hunt from this past weekend. Um, but so every week, guys, I want to have a segment where I kind of give you a rundown of the fishing in East Tennessee or wherever I'm fishing that weekend, and kind of keep a log, whether I caught fish that week and what I caught them on. In no way is this what you need to do to go out to the lake and catch them, because I spend many days struggling. You could ask Brett and Chris. We've spent
Oh yeah.
we've spent plenty of time on the water not catching fish, but you know, sometimes we'll get on a bite, and you know, I'll share with you guys what I'm catching them on, where they're at, or where I'm finding them. It might not be worth much, but I'll be honest with you guys. A couple weeks ago, me and Chris went, and I was catching. The only thing I could get bit on was a little square bill KVD crankbait. You know, and most of my catches were not. They did not eat it. I just happened to land it on top of their head, and they got a reaction strike.
I caught one fish.
Chris caught one fish. It was tough. It was really tough.
One fish.
I ended up catching 4 fish for probably, I don't know, what did we weigh them out to be? 8 or 9 pounds or something like that?
Yeah, 8 or 9 pounds. I think your biggest one was 2 pounds, one
and a half, something like that.
Yeah, 2.5 pounds.
So that was you know, that's been a couple weeks though, and it was tough a couple weeks ago, and the word around the state is that the fishing is picking up and getting good, and I'm going to go this weekend. Hopefully I didn't miss out on the action, but the word around the street is that fishing is picking up in East Tennessee. So from in more weeks to come, I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little bit of a rundown on what I caught them on. Just a quick little fishing report, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, that's 43 minutes, guys. What do you think? Kidding.
I'm good with that. I've got 2 more things I'd like to add before we do before we.
I need more coffee. So.
Yeah, I need some more coffee too. The one thing that Richard brought up that I feel like is important is you were talking about what area we are hunting, right? And how important it is to know your area. So what we're saying may not be pertinent for somebody in Montana.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different types of hunting.
Right. Well, it's really important to understand more about your area than anywhere else in the country. You know, it's good to pull knowledge from everywhere and try to apply it to your area. But the biggest advice that I could give to anybody trying to hunt is to know where you are. Know where the food is, know where the water is, know how the deer are patterned. You know your area. You got to spend some time looking at these things. You know, you can listen to us talk for 3 days, and it's not going to help you be any better at hunting. You're going to have to know where you are and what you're after. Otherwise, it's as simple as going and sitting and watching. You know, you could be in a Walmart parking lot and have the same luck if you don't know your area.
Very true. Sometimes you can go out there and spend a lot of time and not see anything, but that's just because you're kind of out of sync with the animal.
Yep.
You gotta get to know these guys because they're fickle.
Yeah. One more thing. Sorry, Richard.
Go for it.
You had to look up the regulations on bears.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing you need to do before you go.
Exactly.
Is know your regulations.
That's a good point. I should have definitely known it was bear season before the fact, but I just had never seen a bear, so it wasn't even my hemisphere, man. It's
I
crazy.
know, but it's in the game book. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
suggest everybody get a hold of a game book and actually read the book. It can be a little dry, but
Do it right.
yeah, do it right.
guys. That's a good note to end on. Do it right. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to try to pump one of these out once a week. Don't know if they'll get any traction or attention, but I figure a few buddies sitting around talking about hunting and fishing sounds like a good time to me. So we're gonna end with what your coffee mug is today, and my coffee mug is I love my kids and pets.
Ooh.
So
Yours is a
Very
little
nice.
more motivational.
Very nice.
what are you working with, Brett?
I am working. Well, we've already seen it, but my mug of the day is the
The
Batman.
Batman.
Oh snap!
Oh snap! And for you guys that are listening, you can tune in to YouTube, youtube.com/RippinLipsTV, RIPNLIPS TV, and you can watch our perspective. We're recording with webcams, and you can see kind of our goofy faces. And what kind of mug you working with, Chris?
It's just a solid brown mug, the Brown Beauty.
Brown Beauty.
That's if we're gonna do this every week, that's gonna be the mug I have every week. Unless you want to send me a new mug.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys listening. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tune in next week. If you have any suggestions, make sure you drop a comment down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Go to Instagram, follow @RippinLipsTV, and peace.